Ladies and gentlemen, according to Tucker Carlson yesterday, when he was releasing all the video footage that completely altered the narrative that Democrats tried to push the past year or 2 years, when he was releasing that footage yesterday, he mentioned that he was going to release video surveillance tapes of the last moments leading to Ashley Babbitt's demise. Now, this woman was unarmed. Let's take a moment and think about that, okay? I've heard people say, well, what would you do if someone entered your home through the window? Yeah, well, I'd take care of business. Legally, abiding by the laws pertaining to the Second Amendment. And this wasn't a residence. This was a building in our nation's capital. And so, completely different ballgame. You had video footage showing officers walking calmly with people who are now serving years in prison. There are people in major cities run by Democrats who have committed true atrocities, and they've served less time than people being escorted or walking side by side with law enforcement. There were people allowed into the building. Was there chaos and mayhem? And I condemn that, yes. But the full story paints a different picture from what Adam Kinzinger was crying about. The full story is what Democrats didn't want you to know. So the full story is that the woman who lost her life, the unarmed woman who lost her life, should be alive today. Now, the law enforcement official, the officer there, said that he saved countless lives. This is, of course, not true. I support law enforcement. Very much so. Okay, you can see right here, I support law enforcement, very much so. But you look, ladies and gentlemen, at the body cam footage on YouTube. There's a channel just of police body cam footage. It almost always exonerates the police officer. Very rarely, and this is why nobody trusts media. 70% of Americans know media have an agenda and an objective that's tearing apart the country. They'll focus on, the most egregious moments where, perhaps the officer did something, terrible. So I support the cause of why people demonstrated that summer. $1 to $2 billion in property damage, though, I don't support. 19 lives lost, 14,000 arrests, I don't support. I didn't see anyone, never Trump Republican, shedding tears about that. But sometimes footage will show that an officer did something wrong. Most of the time, footage exonerates an officer. Most of the time. Body cam footage usually exonerates law enforcement officials, vindicates them, and usually shows that they had to utilize lethal force. There are times, of course, where that is not the case, where a crime was committed by the officer. But most of the time, it shows that the officer tried his or her best not to use lethal force. And you can see the body cam footage usually shows that. In this case, I don't believe what happened to Ashley Babbitt was warranted or justified. I don't believe that what took place in any way, shape, or form was warranted. Because inside the building, you had like this serene, calm, peaceful officers walking with people. They thought it was a glorified tour. Now, outside, there was chaos and mayhem. But we're not talking about $1 to $2 billion in property damage or a CNN journalist in front of a building in flames. Hit subscribe to this channel right now, by the way. Go to hagoodman.com to read my writing in The Hill, The Huffington Post, Shalom, The Jerusalem Post, The Federalist, and other publications. And become part of a newsletter there. And your super thanks is so important. That's below next to the like and the share buttons. And The Patreon is below. If you want to support my work long term, ladies and gentlemen, to my new Patreons, thank you. I can't tell you how important the Patreon is, and your support every month, if you'd like to, is so important. And I do appreciate that very much. He's going to release footage tonight that almost certainly shows, because he stated on air, Tucker Carlson, that she should be alive and she was essentially murdered. Essentially. Now, Democrats are hypocritical. Oftentimes, the morally superior among us. You have this one person, one writer. I'm not going to go into specifics, but I read an article about this writer who says you should shun anyone who votes Republican. And now it's not just Trump, it's just Republican, okay? Which was always the story. It was the never-Trumpers basically are Democrats now, because they think they live in a world where one day the good Mitt Romney or Paul Ryan Republican will be allowed to just, compete on a level playing field without media as an extension of the Democratic Party. It'll never happen again. Those days are over. The nice, story on Paul Ryan lifting weights, that's never going to happen again. As vice president, it's never going to happen again. The game plan, the rubric, the roadmap, the template is Trump, monster, all Republicans, worse than Trump once Trump, no longer runs for president years from now. But what took place was you have an unarmed demonstrator. It doesn't matter if you don't like the underlying cause. So people ignored the $1 to $2 billion in property damage because, like me, I agree with why I think that, the cause was a good cause. That was a terrible moment in American history, but nothing is worth $1 to $2 billion in property damage according to Wikipedia, and 19 lives lost. You can't just justify chaos and mayhem and violence for an underlying cause that's just, and then condemn it when you don't believe that the cause is just, when you think it's just, oh my God. And then what they tried to do with this Democrat, they said Trump's viewpoint led directly to this. No, it didn't. There were people there, almost certainly, that were agitating, and that's obvious. But the barricades were gone. Why? Why were people allowed to even get close to the building? That is the fault of Democrats, Pelosi, I don't know who, but it's the fault of Democrats. Democrats ran the House of Representatives. They should have put barricades around the building. If they didn't do that, that's not Trump's fault. And if there were barricades put up, which I believe there were, who took them down? Somebody asked the January committee. Somebody asked the January committee why people were let in. Why were people ushered in? Why were people taking tours? This is not the I word they use. This is not a revolt. This is not an assault on democracy. This was a chaotic event, in some ways fostered by very bizarre scenes that we're seeing with Tucker Carlson now that completely changes the narrative. When Democrats are upset about this footage, what they're telling you is, oh my God, it's like you're pulling the curtain from The Wizard of Oz. Be very afraid, you have no idea. Oh, okay, you're the wizard. Oh, gotcha. So they say Trump lies. Nobody on the planet lies more than Democrats. They say George Santos lies. Go draw a T-chart. All of the lies from Biden and all of the lies of George Santos. Biden was never arrested during the civil rights movement. Biden never experienced the same life as a British member of parliament, which he plagiarized one of his speeches decades back. I mean, there's a long list of Biden is routinely saying things that never happened. He met with Hunter's business associates. Yes, that was the biggest lie of all, a greater lie than anything Trump ever told. Go look at Trump's lies. They'll talk about like a Sharpie, and then they'll say he downplayed. You know what? He never downplayed anything. That's an opinion. You can't say that somebody doesn't share your sentiment, therefore it's a lie. Imbeciles. Anyway, hit subscribe to this channel right now. She should be alive today. Mr. Floyd should be alive today. Okay? There's a lot of people who should be alive today. Just left, right, I don't really care. The Republican, I'm conservative on most things now, or a lot of things, I should say. I'm voting for Trump, but I'm not into the tribalism. That's why I tell you, I support why people demonstrated that summer, but I don't support 14,000 arrests. There weren't 14,000 arrests that day in January. Nobody tried to overthrow democracy. That, too, is a vapid opinion by the most apoplectic among us, who make leaps of logic based on lies by omission. And now we're finding out why these lies by omission exist. The narrative has been obliterated. Everybody knows now what's taking place. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right now. It'll be on. Tucker Carlson said this evening, I'll have a live stream right after the Tucker Carlson videos. Be here for the live stream, ladies and gentlemen. This is paradigm changing, and I told you Trump basically won 24 with these videos. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe. Be here for the live stream. Thank you.